Hendricks, and this is Legacy Her Way, the podcast where we explore how women are creating powerful personal legacies through family, faith, business, and beyond. From foster moms to founders, creatives to caregivers, we go beyond the buzzwords and talk about real life, real impact, and the values that guide us all. Whether you're building wealth, raising kids, or launching your next big thing, this space is for you. This episode is sponsored by Huntsville Estate Planning Lawyer LLC, where we empower your future and secure your future through estate planning and trademarks. So let's talk legacy. Her way, your way. Today's guest is someone who is building a powerful personal legacy for herself and for others. Nesha Wright Spencer is an attorney, founder of Spencer Wright Law Firm, and is known on Instagram as Sew Legal Chick for incredible sewing, tailoring creations. And are you wearing one of your creations today?
I am. That's loud.
Yay! Nesha is a powerhouse and very personal, as you can see from her wonderful smile, and she's full of wisdom. So let's just dive right in. Welcome to the show, Nesha.
Thank you for having me, Tanya. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Well, I'm excited to have you here to showcase you for a number of reasons. I mean, you are a powerhouse lawyer. You also are extremely talented. Now, when I was getting ready for this episode, I was researching, are you called a seamstress? Are you called a sewist? Are you called a tailor? And there's a split as in what to be called. So what do you prefer to be called?
I personally prefer to be called a sewist. When I think of a seamstress or a tailor, I think of someone who does it professionally. And although I do make a lot of my professional garments for myself, I don't do it for others. And I don't think I have the same kind of foundation or wealth strength of knowledge or technique that a professional seamstress or tailor would have.
Okay, so you are a sewist.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Okay. I was just looking at something looked a little strange on my screen, so I was just double checking there. Okay. Well, I will be sure to reference you as a sewist, and we'll talk about your talent a little bit later. But I do encourage anyone listening, be sure to follow Nesha or Sew Legal Chick on Instagram, because she is phenomenal when it comes to the sewing aspect and an attorney as well. So before we really dive in to you as a lawyer, to you as a sewist, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I was born and raised on the south side of Chicago. I think you know that from our previous discussions. And growing up in a big city, gives you a lot of opportunity to learn who you are and try to be independent. You're given a lot of responsibility just in the day-to-day life as a child. And I came to Alabama after attending Randolph-Macon Women's College in Lynchburg, Virginia. I met an alumni of Randolph-Macon who was a professor at Cumberland School of Law. And after speaking with her, she convinced me that I needed to be in Birmingham at Cumberland. And I loved Cumberland. It was a great experience. Would not change anything for the world. And I took a lot of their trial courses and advocacy courses because I knew I wanted to be in the courtroom. And after graduating, or while in law school, I met my husband, and he was an engineer here in Madison County at Restaurant Arsenal, like so many others in this area. And we got married out of law school. I moved up here and I started my own law firm, been going ever since, nonstop.
So he was already in Huntsville working,
yes,
and you were in Birmingham.
Yes.
So how did y'all meet?
We met online.
Okay.
On forum.
Okay.
It was a chance meeting, and we started talking, communicating via email, kind of very much similar to, I don't know if you've seen this old movie, You've Got Mail, like Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan and chatting like that. And then it just progressed to phone calls, and from phone calls to Skype at the time. So it was the leading video chat service, and then in person, and we just never stopped talking.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. So online relationships do work, not all. And you have to be very careful and cautious. I met my husband on eHarmony, so there are some great ways online to meet people, but we're not a dating show.
No, no. Results may vary.
Yes, results may vary.
Yeah.
Be very cautious if you do that. All right. So why did you pursue the legal field? What kind of got you interested in the law?
Well, I have always been pretty outspoken, and I come from a large family. And I think when you're in a large family, you can either go one or two ways. You can kind of be a shrinking violet, or you can be a very vocal person. And I turned out to be a very vocal person. And over the years, I just had a habit of sticking up for other people. And as I got older, teachers and counselors and other folk in my life would tell me, "Oh, you should pursue law. You should pursue law." And when I got to college, my goal was not necessarily to become a lawyer. I had some other plans. I thought I would go into politics because I did believe in advocating for other people, and I thought, joining, I don't know, some kind of political action group or something of that nature from a legislative perspective could be a good career path for me. But I felt the calling of the Lord to go into the law instead, applied to law school, got in, and I've been going ever since. So that is kind of how I ended up here. And I think the way I see my practice is an opportunity for me to help others. And I know it sounds very cliche when I say, because that's what most lawyers think that we're going to do. And I think by practicing family law and criminal defense, I do get the opportunity to help people every day.
Let's talk about the criminal defense. Because, I've done criminal defense before, and people, and even just last week, somebody's like, how did you defend those people? So everybody just has the perception of those who are charged with crimes.
Yes.
Tell us how do you answer that question? When people ask you, how can you represent those people? How do you respond? And what is your perspective on representing people accused of crimes?
So 10 years, my criminal defense practice is vast. It's very varied. I do everything from traffic tickets to capital murder cases. And when people are charged with capital murder cases, it's usually some of what most of society would consider some of the most heinous of crimes. I always tell people who ask that question, how would you want someone to defend your relative if it were them that had that charge? I think everyone is entitled to a fair defense, fair trial, and constitutionally effective assistance of counsel. While the charges may seem scary, and the facts, depending on what they are, may also be a little unnerving, that person is still entitled to a fair trial, an impartial jury, and for the system to work the way it's intended to work. And I'm a part of the system to make sure it does treat that person fairly. Okay. As attorneys, we don't create the facts. If we could create the facts, we would not have any kind of capital murder cases at all, because I don't think any lawyers just sitting around thinking, how can I create a case like this, But the reality is that people come in all shapes, sizes, and they have all different kinds of experiences that lead them to different actions that causes certain outcomes. And once those outcomes occur and they're involved in the justice system, you don't want someone, just because they have a particular charge, to not receive a fair trial versus someone who has just a traffic ticket. Everyone should be treated fairly. And I think that's one of the things that makes this country a great place, is that we have a system put in place to try to treat people fairly, no matter what their economic or social background is. And I think that's what people need to realize is, you want a fair shot, so does this person.
Absolutely. I have, we know each other from practicing law. So, I've done same thing you've done as far as family law and criminal defense. And in my experience, the criminal defense clients were actually the nicest and easiest to get along with.
Yes.
I was never fearful of a criminal defense client. I've had more run-ins with dangerous divorce cases. Has that been your experience?
That has been my experience. And what I will say is, there are a lot of articles on different law journals and news sites that do highlight the risks that family law attorneys have in their day-to-day practice. When you have criminal defense clients, you have people who have been charged and who are under a different level of scrutiny from the justice system than someone in a divorce case. And I think also, when you have these very highly emotionally charged family law cases, the actions of the attorney are because we're trying to advocate for our clients. But sometimes the opposing party sees it as if you're the one who's changed their spouse, who's changed the other person on the other side, and they're only doing these things because you're in their ear. So now you're taking blame for just doing what you're hired to do, which is to advocate for their best interests. And I think also when you're talking about the dissolution of marriages or families or charge incidents between family members, the role of the attorney gets so skewed sometimes in those individuals' heads that it's hard for them to separate their beliefs from reality. And in the criminal defense sphere, or even just criminal justice in general, there are very clear separation. The prosecutor is going to prosecute. The defense attorney is going to defend. There's a lot of gray in between because there's a lot of gray in the law, but it's more black and white than family law is. And I think that having those clear distinctions and roles helps with criminal defense. And your clients typically know that you're there to help them and you're trying to do your utmost best. Now, we, as lawyers, know we cannot guarantee outcomes for any kind of case. And sometimes criminal defendants are displeased with outcomes, but we don't create the facts and we cannot dictate what a jury of 12 random peers are going to decide that they believe is true.
True. Absolutely. Absolutely. What is your favorite thing about being a criminal defense lawyer?
Well,
Or what do you most enjoy about being a criminal defense lawyer?
Well, it's a twofold. I do enjoy working with my juvenile or younger criminal defense clients and the clients who are struggling with addiction, especially when you can see like a light bulb or a flip or switch change in their lives. And you get this sense that you know that if I can help them resolve this as positively as we can or mitigate the consequences of the charges, and they follow up with you a year later and they say, oh, Ms. Wright, I was able to get a job, or I have the ability to now visit my children, or I've been sober now for 18 months. I'm glad you got me into this treatment program. It makes me feel like my goal of helping and advocating for people is actually, working. It's really feel like you're effective in what you're doing. And so those are the cases that I tend to enjoy the most, because I do think that there is opportunity to really make some substantive, long-lasting changes for those clients.
Yeah, I will say that, I have kept thank you cards. I mean, I've been practicing law for 23 years. I have kept thank you cards from clients, and the most thank you cards I got had been from my criminal defense clients.
Yes.
They are the most appreciative. And, I don't know that the general public really appreciates that these are real people, real humans.
Yes.
With a family. I mean, I say with a family, some of them don't have families. Some of them, they came to court with nobody. I mean, nobody showed up to be there to support them. So, people wonder how does somebody end up in this situation? Well, when you're sitting in a courtroom and there's nobody behind your client, you start figuring out how some of these things happen. But these clients were always the most appreciative. And one of them in particular, I'll never forget, he got sentenced. He did a blind plea, which, between attorneys, it's not something we really like to do.
No.
But it was his best option. And the judge threw the book at him. And I was livid when that happened. That was not in Madison County. I was livid. And I stood up for him and I argued back to the judge trying to get the sentence reduced. And the judge, obviously didn't change his mind. I felt horrible. I mean, I felt horrible for my client. And he was one of them that had nobody there with him. He sent me a thank you card about 2 weeks later, thanking me for standing up for him because nobody ever stood up for him before.
Exactly.
And those are the stories that I wish more people knew and understood, rather than just seeing a mugshot on a screen when it hits the news. I wish people understood the stories behind each of those mugshots and each of their stories. Have you had a similar experience with the appreciativeness of your clients?
Absolutely. I've had clients who told me even as recently in the last 6 months that no one's ever told them that they were proud of them, because I tell them I'm proud of you and I'm proud of you for maintaining your sobriety. I've had clients who although we weren't able to mitigate the consequences of the circumstances as much as I wanted to, when they were released, they brought their children to meet me so I can hold and love on their babies. And we're just so proud to say, hey, I'm a dad now. And I remember what you told me, and I'm really trying my best. And, I always tell them, call me, let me know what's happening, the good things. We don't want to just see you when there are bad things. We want to celebrate with you, because we understand that, a lot of times, like you said, some of these folks have no one in their corner. And I do, when it's a good, positive relationship, try to also give encouragement to their family members as well. And sometimes I'll get grandmothers, moms, or aunties, cousins to call me and say, hey, I just wanted to let you know that this person, they joined the military, and that's why they haven't followed up with you, and they're doing really well, and we appreciate what you were able to do for them. And so those are always really great moments that we have. I wish we had a lot more of those every day. Sometimes they feel a little few and far in between, but they're always nice when they do happen.
Yeah, it is. It is. And it's unfortunate that it's not, the success stories aren't as frequent as we would like.
Yes.
Unfortunately, that is the case a lot of times. How does your law firm reflect your personal values?
So, I think when I first started, I like most people, you get heavy into the marketing. You want to see, how can I market myself? And I tried to think of 3 words that really encompass who I am. And I settled on compassion, integrity, and results. I'm very goal driven, but I also believe that the practice of law should not be the way it's shown on TV, or sometimes it's hyper adversarial. And you get a lot of those. I get a lot of questions from law students like, is it like Suits? Is it like this TV show? And then I tell them, most people are not that rude. It's much more of a collaborative space. And I think there are collaborative opportunities than a lot of people realize. And so I try to work collaboratively. I try to be compassionate in my care for my clients' cases, and try to conduct myself with the utmost level of integrity and honesty. I think that sometimes when you're working with clients, where it's family law clients or criminal clients, everyone has these ideas that they think should happen with their case. And I think you do a disservice to your client when you're not giving them honest responses and letting them know the best case, worst case scenarios. And I get sometimes clients who were previously with another law firm, and they'll come to me and they say, well, my lawyer never told me this. And I said, well, I'm telling you now, because I don't like surprises, and I want you to understand that this could be a very real possible outcome, and we need to address this. And so I try to conduct myself in a way that I would want an attorney to represent me, is what I would say.
Okay. Wow. So the title of this podcast is Legacy Her Way. What does that mean to you?
So I thought about that a lot. And for me, I believe legacy my way would be generational change. And I had a lovely discussion with another lawyer the other day, and I was telling him, no one gets to where they are on their own. And as much as I can help the next generation coming along, I will always try to do that, because I want them to help the generation after that. So that is what I think legacy my way would mean for me, is generational change, so that we're creating a more fair and equal society for everyone. I really believe in there being a fair level playing field for everyone, and making sure our next generation is not just shown idealized representations of what it means to be an attorney on TV, but that they have an opportunity to go into the courtroom, to work with real people, and to see this is how you can make a lasting change in your community, whether you're doing personal injury work or whether you're doing something like criminal defense.
Well, and I know, because I know you personally, and it is also on your website, yeah. I know that you actually live that out. You're very intentional about that legacy and helping the next generation. You mentor, you provide a scholarship through your law firm. Plus, and you're an instructor you were an instructor at Calhoun Community College. Tell us about this mentorship, because I know you really invest in the lives of young people.
Yes. So I was previously an instructor at Calhoun. I am currently an adjunct at Oakwood University in their pre-law department. I have always believed in giving back. So when I was in law school, there were a couple of different lawyers who took a chance on me. and hired me as an intern in the law clerk for a nonprofit organization in the law firm. And I think about them all the time. And I think to myself, what would I want for someone else coming along? And because it was hard to get those opportunities, I always try to make sure I can create an opportunity for another student as well. And so I'm proud to say that over the last 14 years I've been practicing, I've had about 12 different interns, and I've got one now. So, and I love just to make sure that they understand that you can practice law the way that you are and being yourself and learning as much as you can to do the best that you can. We started offering scholarships a couple of years ago after my grandmother passed. The scholarship is called the Magnolia Leaders Scholarship. It's named after my grandmother, who was a very independent woman, born and raised in rural Mississippi in the 1920s. So, it was Jim Crow South for her. And it was a very hard existence. She grew up as a sharecropper, and she relocated to Chicago looking for opportunity. She was one of the first people in her family to do it. And she built a way for other family members to migrate from the Deep South and help them establish themselves in Chicago. And that's why I'm from Chicago, not Mississippi. So,
She ended up back south.
Yes, but I did move back south. But she was very perplexed by that because she's like, I moved us out of the South. But she was always ready to help anyone. There was never anyone hungry in her house. There was never any unclothed in her house. If you needed help, you came to my grandmother. And I feel like naming the scholarship in her honor was, it was just destined to happen because it is me helping someone else to fulfill their dreams of practicing law and advancing the career and the profession. And so that's why it's the Magnolia Leader Scholarship, because she was a leader amongst our family. And I believe that these young men and women who've been awarded the scholarship can also be leaders in their community moving forward. And it's been a real blessing to be able to help other students. So the scholarship is a $1,500 scholarship that's spaced out over 3 years. It's intended to help them with the cost of law school books, which is quite expensive. Yes. And it just takes one other thing off of their shoulders, so that way they can really focus and not have to worry as much about how am I going to buy this $300 book. Or even if they're being savvy and go to Book Check or any of those other, used book sites to try to make their own personal funds stretch a little further.
I think that's incredible because, as you just mentioned, I know the cost of law school books. I grew up in a family that we weren't wealthy. Mm-hmm. I wasn't, I was the first person to be a lawyer for my family. And you make it through undergraduate, then you have to go to law school, and you think that undergraduate books are expensive. When you get to law school, I mean, it was mind-boggling how expensive it is. And for you to be able to provide some just a little bit of money to help those students with those law school books, because that law school, those books just by themselves could be a barrier.
Yes,
it could certainly be a barrier for somebody going to law school, because it is expensive across the board just to go, but then you have to add in the books. Then you have living costs. In the first year of law school, I know if it was like this at Cumberland, I know I went to the University of Alabama, and the first year of law school, they really discouraged us from working that first year.
Yes.
And so if you're not able to work, and you really couldn't, even if they did say, yeah, go ahead, there's so much work to do.
And everything is new, and you're learning a new way of thinking and a new way of reading, writing. And it really changes fundamentally how you interact with the world and people. You're always doing risk assessments, liability assessments. You're always trying to figure out, am I saying the right thing? Is this going to make me liable down the road? And to add in the cost of living when you're unable to work, because the amount of work is overwhelming, 20, 40 cases to read and brief each night for each class. You're in 5 classes out of the day. You're getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, going to bed at midnight because you're trying to get so much studying in. Yep. And then you add financial stress on top of it. So I think ideally, I would love to grow and expand the scholarship so it's more, so it can do more. And although we give the scholarship, that's not where it just stops. I call in, I check on them regularly throughout the semester. Hey, how are you doing? We've started sending care packages out to the students as well, just to let them know, hey, we're still thinking of you. We want you to be successful. Nice. Call me if you need to just to vent. I understand your professor is probably being unreasonable because that's what they do, And just to make sure that they know that they're not in this alone. And I've been blessed to be doing this for a while. So I do have a couple of people who are interns who are now practicing attorneys.
Nice.
And they are themselves taking on interns. And and that's why when I think about, legacy, generational change, it's like I thought of the analogy of a rock in a pond. You throw a rock in a pond and you have all of these ripples. If I'm the rock, I'm hoping that the ripples will keep rippling until, eternity through others, because someone helped me, now I have to help someone else. And I always tell them, pay it forward. I don't need you to do anything for me. I don't need a car. I don't need a phone call. Phone call will always be nice, but I really want you to help the next student coming behind you. And they've been able to do that. And that's made me very happy.
Well, and you were living out something that I think we often hear, that you're being in this case, the woman that you needed when you were in college or you were going to law school. You're actually being that person for these young people. And that is an incredible legacy, but testament to your character and to your integrity, that you are stepping up and saying, I needed this when I was in school. I needed this when I was, in college or law school. And you're doing that,
Yes.
which is, again, I think it's a testament to your integrity, and, building a legacy on that. You are making a generational change by doing that and helping level the playing field. That's, 1,500 over the course of 3 years. I mean, I think I got a $500 scholarship my freshman year of college, and it was like I had won the lottery, because $500, that hell, that's less that my parents had come up with, or that I had taken out a loan for. And so every little bit helps. And I'm just so proud of you that you do that, and that you're being that person that you needed for these young people. So, what is a legacy? I mean, in order for you to do this, in order for you to, help with this generational change and build a legacy that you are building, what is a mindset shift that you had to make in order to build this legacy? Or what is something you'd recommend for somebody else if they're thinking they want to make a generational change for other people? What is something that you would recommend they do as far as a legacy building habit or mindset shift?
So one thing that comes to mind first, I would say great financial literacy skills. So I grew up on the south side of Chicago to a very hardworking family who did not have a lot of money. Okay, we were just flat out broke. We were poor, and that's okay, because that's where I started. And I think when you're living in a household where things feel like everything's from paycheck to paycheck, it makes it very hard to try to plan. And when you start coming into greater financial resources, not having that really strong background could make you feel vulnerable, and it does hamper your ability to do some of the things I've been able to do. So making sure I had the right financial literacy to do the scholarships, to budget, to save, to plan, to make changes in the way I manage and operate my law firm has been the biggest changes that I've made. And certainly the things that I am still working on. And I think the other thing that I would say is we have to give ourselves grace to make those changes that are necessary to create the legacies that we want. I think when we start thinking about generational change, as I put it here, or futures for our families or communities, we set out a very rigid plan. It has to go A, B, C, D, all the way to Z, when that's not the way the world works. It's not the way life works. So you have to give yourself some flexibility and be able to learn to go with the flow and to make changes along the way, even if it's just a micro change and saying, I'm going to save an additional $150 this month, instead of saying I need $10,000 every year to do it this way, that way, and so on and so forth. So that's been the biggest thing. And also making small changes along the way that are sustainable. I think also I had fallen victim to this. And I know you see every year, and I'll give you an example. Every year at the start of the year, everyone says they're going to work on, they're going to change their life and do all of these things. And we make all these big plans, and then like 3 months later, we're not doing anything. And so that's why I try to make small incremental changes that are sustainable. So that way I don't feel overwhelmed initially and I don't put it on the shelf.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful advice. Wonderful. I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about your sewing because you are a phenomenal sewist. How did you get into sewing?
My grandmother, my grandmother taught all of us how to sew, the boys and the girls. So when we were younger, we would spend our summers and spring breaks with my grandma, and she would make custom drapes for people. That was her side gig. And so everyone needed to learn how to thread a needle, sew all the buttons, know how to do a box pleat, because she would have us pre-pleat the drapes and make sure that they were measured and make sure they were even before she stitched them down. And so we all learned how to work her sewing machine. And now my brothers, they don't sew, but they know how to hem their own pants. So I really picked it back up in 2015. I was talking to my husband, complaining about something on Project Runway, and I said, I can do that. And he said, you know how to sew? And I was like, yeah, of course I know how to sew. My grandma taught me. And he got me a sewing machine for Christmas, and I've just been going ever since. So
And you wear a lot of your clothes. I mean,
yes,
a lot of your suits and things you wear to court, you've sewn.
absolutely. Now, when I first started, I had a lot of misses, but I was determined that with the amount of time and effort I was putting into it, I was going to wear it no matter how bad it looked on the inside and or on the outside, because it was something that I worked really hard on. And over time, I've worked on my skills and techniques. I've gotten a lot better, not professional grade yet, but good enough that I can make some things. And I feel like, well, no one knows that I made this unless I tell them. And so, and I just really learned how to take my time. I think, we're in what they call us the microwave generation. We want everything now, instantaneous. And sewing is not that. It's very much a slow process when you want to get it right. And I also think that it allows me to do something creative that's different from just my everyday job. And I can really sit at the sewing machine and forget about everything else because all I'm focused on is making the right cut, doing the right stitch, pinning this fabric here or there, doing my test muslins to make sure it fits me. I think also when I started sewing, I got very frustrated shopping. And, the standard sizes that come into our stores are not standard at all. The system for measurements in, women's clothing was based off of a select group of women from the 1940s when they generated this size 6 through 14. And everything since then has been based off those metrics. And each designer or company changes things, which is why you can be a 2 in one line and be an 8 in a different designer's clothing, but your weight hasn't changed. But what that does to you mentally and physically as a woman can be fairly negative. And so sewing clothes help build my personal confidence in my style because when you put something on that fits you and you like it, you feel better and you can present yourself more authentically to yourself.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, what is one thing, and you've got, you're got your legal practice, you've got the sewing, you got other things happening in your life. What is one thing you're doing now that you wish more women knew they could do?
I will say to not be afraid to trust yourself. I think we do a lot of second guessing where we can trust our instincts. There are going to be very few times that your instincts let you down. You're smarter than what you will give yourself credit for. You're stronger than what you give yourself credit for. And if you think you can do it, go for it. And those people who doubt you, just put them to the side because you have to live your life for you is what I would say to those women. I would say, and I say it to myself, and I say it a lot because I do mentor a lot of young women, and I say it to them all the time. Trust that you're doing what's right for you. Pray about it, think about it. It's fine to get counsel and advice from other people. It'd be smart to do so, but you're the one who has to live with the consequences. And so if this is what you want to do, then go for it.
Well, I also say they'd have to live with the consequences and regret if they did not take that chance or take that risk. I mean, an educated risk.
Yes.
Making sure you do all your research. But, I think people do regret when they don't take that chance.
Yes.
That they feel that the need to do something, or as you mentioned earlier, it's a calling from God to go to law school. I think a lot of us have that gut instinct or that, calling, whatever it is, and maybe it's outside of the norm. Maybe we grew up in a family that wouldn't be considered the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
and somebody is there to say, you can't do that or you shouldn't do that. And so I think it's important for women to hear what you just said, which is trust yourself.
Yes.
Know
Or
your
you're scared because
Oh, yeah.
fear of change is real. I battle it every day. Am I good enough? Is this the right move? And the more you focus on the fear and uncertainty, the further and further away you will get from your natural instincts and whatever, if you're a person of faith or not, whatever is guiding you towards that decision. So when you can trust yourself, you can silence the fear.
Nice. Nice. Okay. Well, how can somebody work with you? Where can they find you?
Well, they can find me at spencer-wright.com. We do handle family law and criminal defense cases. We are starting to do some estate planning things. And as of this week, I've taken on a new position representing the Department of Human Resources for Madison
Woo,
County.
that's a
Yeah,
big one.
that is a big one. So it's been a busy week. um, but we are always here to help. And what I would tell someone is that if you know that you know one lawyer and they don't do what you need, call us and ask us for a referral. We will look through our Rolodex, or at least metaphorical word Rolodex. I don't think anyone has a real one anymore. But we will look through our contacts and we will refer you to someone that we know you can trust to do an excellent job. And so I do get a lot of calls for things that I do not do. And I tell my paralegal, okay, pull out our list. We have a running list. Okay, these are the lawyers that we know do estate planning. These are the lawyers that we know who do trust work, that do intellectual property, that do landlord tenant. These are the lawyers that we know do personal injury. Let's send them to one of these. And then I tell the person, hey, call us back if they can't help you. And we'll give you some other names, And so that's how you can reach me. Primarily, we just do family law and criminal defense. If there's anything out there, we're going to send you to someone else. We'll try to send you to good people who will take care of you.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize they can call their attorney that they know. And even though, I don't do personal injury, you don't do personal injury, we know people who do. Instead of relying on some other outside sources, you can rely on people that you know, like, and trust to send you to the right people. And so I think that was incredible piece of advice you just gave there to call you. If they know you, call you, and you'll be happy to send them somewhere. And even sometimes someone's not the right fit for us.
Yes.
And we're like, we don't, this is not going to work. I can't help you on this one. This is the type of work I do, but I can't help you on this one. So here's somebody else.
Yes.
And I think people don't understand that part of it, and that they can talk to multiple attorneys.
Yes, especially when in family law, you'll get sometimes some clients who say, I want an attorney who's going to be really aggressive in the courtroom or really aggressive outside the courtroom. And I tell them, well, I have some lawyers that I can refer you to. I am a zealous advocate. And I think that's something I'd like to be remembered for. I think you've seen me in court. I think we've had a few cases together over the years. And I will get in there and I will fight tooth and nail. But it has to be over things that make sense for the case and for the client. Yes. I'm not fighting just for the sake of fighting, because I think that just runs up a legal bill that nobody was going to want to pay at the end of the day.
Exactly.
And I think that when you have a client who says, I don't care what the bill is, I want you to just fight. Well, I have a lawyer that's really great at doing that, and I will refer you to them. And it's not saying that I don't think we could work well together all the time. It's just saying that you want something different than what I am able to perform and provide. But this lawyer is great at what they do. Mm-hmm. And so go with them, because it has to be the right fit. And I think sometimes, I think as attorneys, we get this idea that, well, every case that comes through the door, we have to take. That's not true. And I think that's also for women in other professions. Every opportunity that comes through the door may not be the right opportunity for you. It has to be the right fit on more than just a financial level. It has to be the right fit on a personal connection level. And you're going to think, well, I'm not making a connection as a business. Well, bless you. Yes, it is a business decision, but how you interact in that business opportunity is going to determine how you're going to act in the next one and what sort of referrals come out of it. And if that's work that you do not want to continue to do, then it may not be the right situation for you to accept.
Yeah. Well, and I guess I probably need to say no representation is made at the Quality Legal Services.
Yes.
Just because we did talk about the law and those things, I don't want to run afoul at anybody. So we got that out there. All right. Well, thank you so much, Nesha, for joining me today. You have dropped some words of wisdom that I know will be very beneficial to the audience. And I'm excited to introduce you to the audience because people need to know that you are out there and that you're just a phenomenal woman, lawyer, and sewist. So,
Yes.
all right. I want to thank you once again, and thank you all for listening to Legacy Her Way. If today's conversation inspired you, moved you, or made you think differently about what legacy means, you're not alone. Be sure to follow the show so you never miss an episode. And if you're feeling generous, leave a review to help more women find inspiration for their own path to legacy. Until next time, keep building boldly, loving deeply, and living your legacy her way. Thank you all.
Thank you.